Hello friends, welcome to my channel TestingGuru. We have a practical knowledge, but in case of an interview, most of the time we hamper different questions, and due to that, our performance in interview is hampering. So for this reason, I come up with the latest software testing interview questions series. So this is my first video where I will cover almost 19 questions of entire latest software testing questions. So let's see, for the first question is, what kind of tests should not be automated? So answer for this is usability testing. At times, this can be impossible task to perform by automation as the computer can't efficiently judge if the system is of any use to its users. And the tests that only need to be executed once. So that test should not be automated. Unless the same test needs to be executed for large data set, then it makes sense to automate it. Then the test is without predictable results. So test automation should give us a confidence in the result of the test. If there are intermittent failures, then the test can't be reliable and cannot be depend on it. Tests that need to be verified visually. Tests that need to be executed quickly. At first, writing an automated test cases, it's longer. If we want a quick check, we can test manually. So second question, different types of locators. What are the different type of locators present in WebDriver? So the answer is different type of locators in Selenium are as follows. First is ID, second is name, third is class name, fourth one is the tag name, fifth is link test and partial link test, then sixth is CSS selector, and the seventh famous, that is XPath. Locating the elements in WebDriver is done by using the method find elements by dot locator. So locator may be as above, the ID, name, class name, CSS selector, tag name, XPath, any of that. Depending on the elements, we can go ahead with this kind of annotation. Next question. What criteria do you consider for automating a test? So for this, the answer is how often does the test need to be executed? That is going to be it is considered to be as either regression testing or not. Sometimes the test will need to be executed once, but with a large set of data. Then second factor to consider is how much time does the automating this test will save me so that I can use my time in exploratory testing. Then third factor, how important is the test to the business? That is the test scenario, a typical user journey through the application. Next factor, how complex is to automate the test and how likely is it that the complexity doesn't cause many false positives, which increases the results analysis time. Next is how likely it is that the stage catches a defect. Then how likely is that a feature or the functionality will break and what is the impact of it to the business. If it is a high impact, then it should be automated to ensure it passes from release to release. So these are the factors to consider to automate a test. Generally, this question comes, what is a test plan? A test plan is a document describing the scope, approach, resource, and schedule of the intended testing activities. It identifies the test items, the feature to be tested, the testing task, and who will do each task. Nothing but the rules and responsibilities, and any risk and its solutions. Next question is, what is polymorphism? Answer: when an object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle, then it is known as a polymorphism. And there are two type of polymorphisms: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism: when an object gets to know its behavior at a compile time, it is known as a compile time polymorphism. And best example of it is method overloading. Runtime polymorphism: when an object gets to know its behavior at runtime based on the reference created, then it is known as a runtime polymorphism. And the best example is method overriding. Next question: what is constructor and what is super? So the answer is constructor is a special method in Java which is used to initialize the object of a class. Constructor method name should be the same as a class name and should not have any return type, not even void also. Super is a statement used in a constructor to invoke the constructor of its immediate superclass. Super should be written as a first statement in constructor. It will be present implicitly or we have to write it explicitly. Next question: what is the difference between final, finally, and finalize? So the final is a keyword used for the variable, method, or class. If we use this keyword for any of above mentioned type, then the type will become the immutable and can't be changed. Finally is a block used in exception. This block will be executed every time either the code throws an exception or not. Finalize: it is the method used in a class which is called before any of its object is reclaimed by the garbage collector. Finalize method is used for performing code cleanup before the object is reclaimed by the garbage collector. Basic difference between the implicit and explicit. So implicit wait and explicit wait, if I go in deeper, explicit wait the used to tell the WebDriver to wait for a certain condition, expected the conditions, or the maximum time exceeded before throwing an element not visible exception. The explicit wait is an intelligent kind of wait, but it can be applied only for specified elements. Counter of it, implicit wait will tell you to the WebDriver to wait for a certain amount of time before it throws a no such element exception. The default setting is 0. Once we set the time, WebDriver will wait for the time before throwing an exception. What is an encapsulation? The process of hiding the state of an object with the help of modifiers like private, public, protected is nothing but the encapsulation. We expose the state through the public methods only if we require. Encapsulation is a strategy used as a part of abstraction. Encapsulation refers to the state of objects. Objects encapsulated their state and hide it from the outside, whereas abstraction refers to its implementation of object. Example, when you plug in the cord of a vacuum cleaner and turn on the switch, the vacuum cleaner start, we do not see the complex process needed to actually convert the electricity into a suction power. In short, seeing functioning of the method or the class without going through in deeper way of their coding part. That is nothing but the encapsulation. What is the abstraction and how it is different from encapsulation? Mhm. Abstraction is another good feature of OOPS concept, the process of hiding the implementation of an object and only providing the functionality to use. Example again, when you change the gear of vehicle, are you really concerned about the inner detail of vehicle engine? No. But what matter to you is the gear must get changed, that's it. This is nothing but the abstraction. Show only the details which matters to you. Abstraction, the process of hiding the implementation of an object and only providing the functionality to use. Encapsulation, the process of hiding the state of an object with the help of an modifiers like private, public, protected, etc. We expose the state through the public method only if we require. Encapsulation is a strategy used as a part of abstraction. Encapsulation refers to the state of objects. Objects encapsulated the state and hide it from the outside, whereas abstraction refers to the implementation of object. Next question. What is the difference between interface and abstract class? Abstract class. An abstract class is a class marked as an abstract and can't be initiated. It can have the abstract or concrete method in any combination. An abstract method is a method marked abstract keyword with only signature and no body, whereas a concrete method is a method with a body. Even if an abstract class contains only concrete methods and no abstract methods, it can't be initiated. Interface. An interface is a contract for a class and contain only abstract methods. The abstract keyword is implicit here for methods, but can also be declared explicitly. Also, variables of an interface are public, static, and final, though they can be explicitly defined with these modifiers. What is null pointer exception? Null pointer exception is an unchecked exception occurs during runtime. This exception occurs when an application attempts to use null in a case where an object is required. This include calling the instance method of a null object, accessing or modifying the field of a null object, taking the length of a null as if it were an array, accessing or modifying the slots of a null as if it were an array, throwing a null as if it were a throwable value. Next question, what is the difference between vector and array list? Vector is thread safe, while array list is not thread safe. In sense of performance, vector is slower because it is thread safe, whereas array list is faster than vector as it is not thread safe. In sense of capacity, when vector cross its threshold of storing objects, it increases its size itself by value specified in capacity increment, whereas array list increases its size by calling ensure capacity method. Next question. What is the difference between XPath and CSS selectors? One of the important difference between XPath and CSS is with XPath we can search elements backward or forward in the DOM hierarchy, while CSS works only in a forward direction. This means that XPath we can locate a parent element using a child element. The basic rule of thumb, if you are trying to do simple queries based on the attributes of element, use a CSS selector. It will be easier to read and debug with the added bonus that CSS selectors tend to perform better, faster, and more reliable than XPath in most browsers. Next question is, what are the testing annotations frequently used with Selenium? So TestingGuru annotation prioritize the calling of a test method over others. Some important annotations are add before suit to run before all tests, add after suit to run only once after all tests, add before class to run only once before the first test method, add after class to run only once after all the test methods of the current class finish execution, add before test to run before any test method inside the test tag, add after test to run after any test method inside the test tag. What are the different exceptions available in Selenium? The standard exception in Selenium are timeout exception, no such element exception, element not visible exception, stale element exception. When timeout exception occurs if a command doesn't finish within the specified duration. No such element exception occurs if web element with the specified attributes is not present on the page. Element not visible exception occurs if element is not visible but still there is inside the DOM. Stale element exception occurs in the absence of an element that either got deleted or detected from the DOM. How can I move back and forth in a browser using Selenium? Selenium provides the following methods for moving back and forth in browsers. Navigate.forward to move the next web page as per the browser's history. Navigate.back to move back to the previous page as per the browser's history. Navigate.refresh to reload the current page. Navigate to particular URL to start a new browser window and opening a specified link. So these are the way to back and forth in a browser using Selenium. Get window handle and get window handles method. What is the difference between that? So driver dot get window handle, it gets the handle that is alphanumeric ID of the active web page. Driver dot get window handles, it gets the set of handles for all the active automation invoked pages open at that time. Remember that return type of the function is set of string. Find element versus find elements method. Both the method traverse the DOM looking for the target web element. The points to consider are the find element method return the first web element matching the locator, whereas find elements return all the elements matching the locator criteria. Working of find element, web element, consider the web element mentioning the object equals to driver dot find element by id, some value is there. Working of find elements, it is nothing in the form as in list. Secondly, if no element is matched, then the find element throws a no such element exception, whereas find elements return an empty list. So this entire 19 to 20 questions will help you for your interview performance. We will come up with the next video for next questions. Till the time, thank you so much.